on YouTube.
Yes,
All right,
yes.
we are on YouTube, and if you're looking for us on YouTube, what's going on here?
I don't know. It's under Melanated Universe.
Huh. What the heck is going on here?
So, yes, Melanated Universe. We are live on YouTube on the Melanated Universe. Dwayne is just trying to figure out what Instagram is doing right
Yeah, they
now.
playing with us right now, y'all. They playing with us.
Sorry for the delay. We started a little bit late
They
today.
are glitching almost everything
All
that
right.
we're on. All right, we live now.
Perfect.
Finally. All right. Hey, persistence is the key, y'all. Persistence is the key. All right. We had some challenges, but hey, what's different between that and any other day of an entrepreneur's life, right?
Facts.
So, like I was saying before, today we're doing something different. Instead of Facebook today, we are on YouTube along with IG and of course the family here on Clubhouse. If you're looking for us on YouTube, you can find us under Melanated Universe. Melanated Universe. All right, we're going live over there. And please like and subscribe. Subscribe to Melanated Universe. There's a whole bunch of other videos over there. I believe 2 seasons of that particular podcast, Melanated Universe.
Yeah.
You'll find a lot of gems over there too. All right. So without further delay, all right, we getting into it today. The name of today's title is "If Money Were a Person, What Would It Say About Your Relationship?"
Yes.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead. I'm
All
just
right.
going to put our link up here.
All right. So, if money were a person, what would it say about our relationship? Before we get into it today, to my Wealthy Wednesday family, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. My name is Dwayne Hall. This is my wife,
Hello.
Chanel
family.
Hall. Chanel Hall, and we are power couples in biz, right? We are the Halls, and what we do is we help families to realize financial freedom. To achieve their financial goals, meet them where they are, and show them how to get to the finish line, whatever that might look like in terms of their financial goals. Also, we help entrepreneurs and people desiring to be entrepreneurs to expand their business or to get into a field of business that, number one, can be worked remotely, and number two, is very lucrative. And let me throw in a bonus, number three, which probably should have been number one. It is an extreme benefit to your community. All right, that is what we do here at Power Couples in Biz, me and the missus. And now we will go ahead and pass the mic over to Diamond D. Diamond, tell them what you do and who you are.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
indeed.
Okay, perfect. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm Diamond D Sells on all platforms. That's Diamond DEE Sells on all platforms. I help individuals as well as seasoned investors with the home buying process. I'm all things real estate. So what I do is I guide you and I hold your hand through the process, through teaching you to knowledgeably invest in properties. My tagline is anyone can acquire a house or home, but can you keep it? So I help you keep it through, going back to the topic of today, having a good relationship with money and making the right decisions so you can protect your investment. So with that, I'll pass it over to Shane so we can get it started.
All right.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So I have a slightly different intro today for you guys. Y'all ready? Here it goes.
Drum roll.
So I help individuals and businesses to beat the tax system without having to cheat the tax system. Yo.
I can dig it. I can dig it.
I like it.
So how I do that is by using legal tax and accounting loopholes so you can make the most out of your money to get the most out of your money without having to pay the most in taxes.
Come on now. We in church. Come on.
Shane got bars.
Right.
And Shane, I'm gonna add this real quick. Tax evasion is not the same as tax avoidance. Tax evasion is illegal.
Exactly.
Tax avoidance is
That's
absolutely legal.
That's right.
All right. So know the difference and
that's what
holla
I
at
teach
Shane.
I teach you guys tax avoidance and not evasion.
There you go.
Got it.
Don't get locked. Don't be Wesley Snipes out here. All right. Don't be that. All right. So
yes. So yeah, today we're just talking about
Oh,
money, money, money.
this one right here,
money.
boy. This one right here. You know, I struggled with this one right here for a long, long time.
Yes, the topic is if money was a person,
Mm-mm-mm.
what would it say about y'all relationship?
Mm-mm-mm. I'm gonna tell you right now. I was in an abusive relationship with money for a long time.
Who was the abuser?
I was the abuser.
Mm.
I was the abuser. I didn't understand that I was Ike in that relationship. Right? And I had unrealistic expectations of my money. And then when my money didn't perform to those unrealistic
You were trying to beat it?
expectations, then yeah, I was not kind to the money. You know what I mean? And yeah, it started from childhood though, because you know they say abused turn into abusers, right? So being that I grew up in a financially
Abusive household.
abusive household. Come on now, look, we opening up the doors now. We getting personal, right? So I grew up in an a financially abusive household. So what does that look like? I remember a clear memory, right? And I grew up in Barbados. For those who don't know, I grew up in Barbados, and I did not live in the wealthiest part of Barbados, right? So it was, you know, meager. I didn't know that at the time because that's all I knew, right? But some of my earliest
Memories.
memories of money weren't pleasant, right? I remember one that was pleasant. That was my grandfather teaching me the difference between the coins and how much they worth, and that the actual bills was worth more than the coins. That was probably one of my few pleasant memories. But I remember things like my mother. You know, she immigrated to New York when I was like 5 or 6, something like that. And she would send back money for me. You know how the folks do it. She send me a little postcard from a birthday, put a little, you know,
Pocket
$40 in
change.
there or something. You know what I mean? But $40 American money was $80 Barbados money, and back then that was a lot of freaking money, right? So I remember one time I opened up this postcard and I saw the monies in it, and I was like, "Oh shit, I got monies," right? And I remember showing it to my aunt and my uncle. Oh my gosh, look, my mom sent me money, and they took it from me. Right? They took it from me, and when they took it from me, they said, "I'm gonna hold on to it for safekeepings.
Wow.
I'm gonna hold on to it for safekeepings because that's too much money for you to have." Right? And I remember saying, "All right, well, you know, I ain't got no reason to distrust them." Needless to say, I never saw that money again.
Wow.
Now, as an adult, they probably put it towards, you know, things that I needed, but the communication wasn't there. It wasn't there. The money just was gone, and I kept asking for it, and eventually they went from telling me, "Oh, we holding on to it," to, "Oh, we spent the money. What you think? You know, you think the food is free, right?"
So what did that do for you in your relationship with money?
It was betrayed. It was betrayal right there. Early. It was betrayal, right? And in my mind, as in child's mind, it was betrayal. Oh, if I have money, I'm not supposed to tell them because they're gonna take it from me, right? And then I remember another time to reinforce the same mindset. I was going to the supermarket, and right before I went in the supermarket, there was a wallet on the floor, and I picked it up. I was like, first time I ever found a wallet. And this wallet had like $800 in it. It was $800, you know, Barbados money. So still, it's a lot of money, 400 American. And I remember I hauled ass and went home. I looked around, nobody saw it. I hauled ass and went home. Showed, hey, look, I found all this money. Man, do you know they took all that money from me?
And didn't give you nothing?
They gave me $5.
Wow.
And then they told me that they was going to hold on to the rest. Guess what happened? I ain't never see that money again. That money was gone, right?
Wow.
So
They still holding it.
they still holding it, right? So what does that see? And see, if you go back in your history, you'll find keys to a lot of your behaviors, right? From unresolved traumas in your childhood, in your past, right? So now I began distrusting people when it came to money. Especially people that I care for, they gonna take the money from me. And they not gonna give it back. So I gotta keep it all to myself and spend it as fast as possible before they find it and take it from me. It took me a lot of years to work through that behavior.
Wow. I wanted to pause really quickly and say shout out to the original woman and Black Orchid on Instagram. They were saying hello.
Shout out, shout out. All right, shout out to
Wow.
Black Orchid and the original woman.
That's I feel sad for you. Like I feel sad. I feel hurt. I feel betrayed. Like dang, $800, and then they just gonna take it like that.
hmm
Dang. Like yeah, that's yeah.
So that was the beginnings of my relationship with money and loved ones.
But you said something that's key. You said it made you want to now you want to spend the money up
Yep. Before they can take
somebody can take it from you.
hmm
And I know when we first got married, one of the things that we used to argue about was you spending money as soon as we got it.
Got paid today, it was gone tomorrow.
So I could see where that, because I didn't even know all this, but now I can see like where that trauma stems from, that behavior came from. And one of the questions that we asked is, as a kid, what did you notice about how the adults around you related to money?
hmm Mm.
And that's for you. That's pivotal to
hmm
your relationship with money now, and not just your relationship with money, but your relationship with people and money now as you become an adult.
And let me tell y'all something that this affected, right? Because like I really had to like meditate and go inside and figure out why was I doing the things that I was doing, right? Recently, someone close to me told me you don't like paying back what you owe,
Mm.
and I had to meditate on that because when they said it, I can't argue with truth. Truth just jumped out and kicked me in the stomach. Ooh, damn, you're right. I don't pay back what I owe, but not to everybody. Not to everybody. This is what the messed up part about if you don't deal with that unresolved trauma. To my loved ones.
Mm.
That's problematic, right? And all that tied back into childhood trauma I had to resolve. Right? So, but they were absolutely right. And I needed to find out why was I doing that? Why was it so hard for me to let that go? That's why. And once I recognized the problem, I was able to go back and forgive my younger self, because my younger self is still viewing that transaction as a victim. And if it's a victim, I'm powerless. So when I went back and I revisited those memories, then I was able to forgive young me. Hey, you didn't know me better. It's okay. There's more where that came from. You understand? And I had to let the younger me that was still stuck in trauma, I had to let that person heal and let it go, right? And now I'm finding, like, since I've done that, I'm the mindset is different. It's like you release the chain on certain types of behavior, right? So I'll pause there. I want to hog the show. Come on, y'all.
You got up off the couch.
I had to tell y'all.
Yeah, I thought Sandman was gonna have to come get you.
All right. I want to hear from you guys, on IG. The question we're asking is, if money was a person, what would it say about your relationship? Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the question we're asking on IG, on YouTube, and even over here on Clubhouse. If you guys are down in the audience, feel free to raise your hand and come up, because we really want to dig deep and really get into this topic, because this topic is really, really important,
Mm-hmm.
especially in our community.
Yes.
And then for the panelists on stage, you guys unmute and and tell us, like, if money was a person, what would it say about your relationship?
Yes.
So I too had a similar experience to wealth, where my family would say that they would hold money for me, and I've never seen that money ever in my life. So I don't know if it was because they thought that I was expensive as a child, and they had to use it to to offset some of the expenses, but I never saw it. So what happened was, whenever I would get money for, like, holidays and stuff like that, I became a money hoarder. So I would, like, have a little stash where I would, stash away my money. And then what I did is I would wake up early in the morning and bake cookies and go to high school and sell them.
Okay.
So, and then I would just hoard all of that money. So when I went away and I left, I had a couple of thousands that I had saved up from just hoarding money over the years.
That's what's up, though. Well,
So now I feel like I have a good relationship with it now, but before I felt like, I just, I would hold on to it. And then when I, moved out and was on my own and had my own apartment, after college and everything, I wouldn't, I would penny pinch. So like, I remember having a job and, when you, like, as women, sometimes we have on pants and they like rub in between the legs.
mm-hmm.
So like I would just stitch them and keep stitching them and keep stitching them, and the stitches would pop, and I would just keep stitching them and stitching them until it was no more fabric to stitch. And I remember one of my employees was like, Diamond, why don't you just buy some pants? I'm like, I can't buy any pants.
I can't afford it.
In that mindset, I was like, I can't spend any money.
Wow.
Because I was so accustomed to like holding on to it. Like, I have to hold on to the money because I don't trust anybody else to hold on to it.
You know, that's so amazing how me and you had similar experiences, but just like they say, sometimes the abused can become the abuser or the one who's being abused, right? So there's two extremes that you can go from that experience. You went to the opposite extreme. You became a hoarder.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I became a spendthrift. I think that's the right word, right? Somebody that just like to spend money all the time, right? So that was the two results of similar trauma, right? We all have these types of traumas going through our minds, running in the background, like background programs, and they're running below your conscious mind, so something you're not even aware of anymore. But it'll show up in your results. And the thing about the subconscious is that when it shows up in your results, you're blind to it. So when people start telling you about it, you get defensive because you can't see what they're talking about. You can't see because it's hidden in your subconscious, the behavior that you exhibited, because you don't even know that you're doing it. Like, you're not fully aware of the consequences of the actions you're taking. And the minute that you become aware of it, now you become accountable for it. And now you start changing things. But that's so amazing. I just want to throw that in there.
Yeah. That's, wow. So, Diamond, I have a question. Do you think that you still carry some of those childhood trauma traits with you? Like, because you said something interesting. You said now you don't trust anybody with your money.
I buy pants now if I need to buy pants.
Well, no. You said it made you not trust anybody with holding your money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you think that that still holds true to you?
I do, because like people come to me and they might ask to borrow money, and if I feel like I can't trust you to pay it back, I won't give it to you, no matter how much you need it. Like, there's certain people I'll lend money to, and there's certain people absolutely not.
Mm.
And then,
because I don't trust I'm gonna.
Oh, she got a phone call.
Yeah, I saw that phone call come in. But it's. Go ahead.
No, I was about to hear what. Oh, there she is.
Hey, sorry, I'm back.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
So certain people I loan money to, and then certain people absolutely not, because I don't trust I'll get it back.
You gonna say something?
Yeah, it was about what she was talking about. It slipped my mind, but it's all right. Shane, you quiet over there, Shane. Quiet over there.
Shane, you waiting to jump in the rope.
I was just waiting. I was patiently waiting.
Go ahead.
You ain't never played double dutch, Shane? You better get in that rope.
See, the one thing, I'm not a very patient person, but I've learned over the last 2 years how to be a little more patient. So although I was anxiously waiting to unmute, I've learned patience, and I have to wait my turn.
That's right.
Let me clap for you. That is a big achievement, and I'm serious. Yes.
So I have a somewhat similar yet different experience when it comes to money. So my experience was, first my word, before I forget, it's going to be the old me was lack versus the new me abundance. And I grew up in lack. Like, we didn't have enough for most of anything. We had a roof over our heads, we had food to eat, but it wasn't enough to feed everyone. We used to be full. You got enough to get you going for the next day, but not full. And if I said I was still hungry, I would get more food to eat, but that meant that my mother got less. She took herself to give to me. So I recognize that from a very early age, my personality and probably the case of my sign or whatever,
Mm.
I'm a person who likes to protect the people that's closest to me. So I would rather not tell you I need so that you don't have to give up what you need to give to me.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I don't know, it could have been something that was taught to me or
Wow.
something that just became a part of my personality. So I wouldn't when we laughed, I just didn't ask for things anymore. So
Mm.
I knew I couldn't go on a trip or I couldn't, I had a school trip, I need money to go do that. I might need lunch to go on this. So I wouldn't tell my mother that I need the stuff because I didn't want to hear I don't have it, or I didn't want her to give it to me, meaning it would cut something else.
Mm.
So I just decided not to say anything at all. So
That's
that
some
I
powerful
grew up
shit.
in black.
Mm-hmm.
The other part is I was pretty good with saving. And people didn't necessarily, tell me, let me hold your money. I had a piggy bank and my money was placed there, but they borrowed and never gave it back.
Mm-hmm.
So they would say, hey, let me borrow some money from you. Or they would just go in there and take it with the idea that they were going to pay it back.
Mm.
But I'm a child, so nobody's going to remember to pay the kid back. No one cares. They don't think it's
Right.
important.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just learned to, when I have, don't tell anybody about it.
Mm.
Also, it was taught to me, instilled in me. My thing was my parents was born in Guyana, so when you made it to the United States, you were like the come up person, even though we were struggling. So she sent all her extra money to Guyana to
Mm.
help take care of them. So that was taught to me that I have to sacrifice myself to help other people.
Mm.
So my relationship with money, when I started making my own money, that's what I did. When my mother would give us money for Christmas and things like that, I wouldn't buy stuff for me. I bought stuff for other people. So this one particular time I remember my father sitting in this particular chair. So the next day I found $20 in this chair. So clearly it belonged to him because that's where he generally sit. Well, I found it. I was about 7 or 8. I found the money. It was $20. I took it. I went to the store and I bought stuff. But
Mm.
guess what I did with the stuff? I gave it away to my friends. I bought enough, like I bought like these toys. It was like these toy cars and trucks. They came in like a 10 pack. I bought that and some candy, and I gave everybody that was around me one of those.
Mm.
I took one for myself, but I shared it. So my punishment for that is that not only did I get my behind whooped, they took all of the money out of my piggy bank because they said they were paying my father back for the $20 I stole. I had well over $20 in there,
Mm.
and that really hurt my feelings
That was
because
a
I'm like,
robbery.
okay, yes, I was wrong. You spanked me, but then you stole the extra money. You didn't just take back what I took, you took more.
Wow.
So that really left an everlasting scar. And I was about 7 or 8. Most you probably don't remember stuff that happened that young, but that was very impressionable upon me. So after that, I stopped putting money in my piggy bank because I'm like, oh, fool me once, you will not take it again. If I ain't got, you can't take me what I don't have. So I grew up pretty much the same kind of concept. I was a pretty good saver, but if someone needed, someone lacked, I would help them, sacrificing myself,
Right.
which in turn, that wasn't a very good way to live. So as the money came in, it went out because if you're a person who's going to give, somebody's always going to need.
Right.
Mm.
Law of
Means that
attraction.
I also end up being in need because I'm out of money now. So
Mm.
that was when my lack phase. Of course, I do a lot of inner work, and I still do my inner work to learn. Now I live abundantly. So
Mm-hmm.
what I did to fix the situation is that because I still spend money in some of the ways I spent it before. Yes, I'll save a little bit, but if it's in my general or bank account, as long as I see money in there, I'm going to spend it. And most of us operate that way. So what I did was I break my money into several bank accounts. I probably got about 15 different bank accounts.
Nothing
There's
wrong with
money in
that.
there for bills. There's money in there for the dog cares. If I don't, something happens, I got money to take care of the dog. There's money in there, for me to leisurely do what I want with it. That account, I don't have to worry about what money is in there. It's for me to do what Shane wants to do. Everything else is there for a particular purpose. So Shane got to have me time money too. So I learned over the last 3 years to have an account like that so that I can reward myself without having to stop being the person I am. I'm still going to help people. I'm still going to do what I do, but Shane is going to get rewards out of it also. So that's why now my word is, if money had a name, it would call me abundance, because I live my life now in abundance. Whereas I know if I spend $1, I'm going to get 10 more.
Shane, Shane, I thank you for sharing that because, like, I like this. I feel like we in therapy, right? I'm serious, right? Because this is some great stuff. Like, what I'm hearing is both me and Shane grew up in a shortage mindset environment when it came to money. Both me, Shane, and Diamond, and Chanel, right? But the extremes, like the way it can turn out so different, right? Because just listening to what you just said, and it reminds me of Chanel saying similar things about not 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 wanting to speak up because it wasn't enough and you didn't want to come across as selfish or greedy and taken from somebody else. That never occurred to me because the environment that I was raised in, even though it was a shortage mindset, it was a shitload of us, right? It was like more than 10 of us living in a little bitty house, right? And everybody was hungry. So if you didn't eat, if you didn't come in and eat when it was time to eat, you just didn't get none.
Wow.
Seriously, you didn't get, and that was it. Like, why wasn't you here for dinner time? Like, that's why you didn't eat,
That's crazy.
right? So it was it was kind of like a lion mindset. Like, you better get yours because it ain't gonna be enough. So don't waste time waiting and trying to be all polite about it. You better get yours, right? Or else you're just gonna be hungry, and now whose fault is it that you ain't get, right? So my mindset was closed mouth don't get fed. Take now. Don't wait time. Don't waste time. Take now. Take now, right? And me and Chanel would get into conflict because those two opposite mindsets when it came to growing up in a shortage mindset. She would not say anything.
He would take my stuff.
She wouldn't say anything, right? And I'm like, can I have it? And she not saying nothing. I'm taking it. Like, okay, well, all right. Like, but if you tell me no, I'm gonna leave it alone. But if you don't tell me no, then I'm all right. Well, that's a yes. If you meant no, you would have said no, right? And I know better now. I know better now. But it's just crazy now that I can see how me and her used to butt heads so much back in the days. I was like, why don't you speak up?
So I'm going to interject for a second because perception is everything, and that's not my recollection of the story. So I remember,
Here we go.
I would buy stuff, and like let's say I bought a Snapple, and I remember the Snapple particularly because I'm very particular about my stuff. Don't touch my stuff. So I would buy like a Snapple apple, and I would have it in the fridge. I won't drink it right away. I might have it in there for a couple of days because it's not moving fast enough. He would go and take it. And I'll come back and I'm like, where's my Snapple? He's like, oh, I drank it. I'm like, well, why did you drink my Snapple? Oh, I can just buy you back another one. No, you're wrong. You knew that was mine. You shouldn't have touched it. So I would tell him, like, if it's mine, don't touch it. Unless I tell you, you can take it. Don't touch it. And he would still drink it anyway. And for a long time, like, we used to argue about this because I'm like, it's not yours. What are you touching it for? So listening to you, it makes sense now that I understand because in your household, that's what y'all did. If it didn't move fast enough, it was fair game. But in my household, if you didn't put it there, you don't touch it. So I used to hate that about you. Like, I swear, I used to be really ready to knuckle up. Like, why are you touching my stuff? And it comes across as lack of respect for my boundaries. Because I'm telling you, these are my boundaries. Don't cross it, and you still would do it anyway. But it's so interesting hearing, your childhood, Diamond,
Making it
Shane,
make
and
sense.
everybody's perspective of their childhood and why they act the way they act now as adults.
Now, see, in my perspective, y'all, I felt shaded by Chanel. Why is she putting stuff in the fridge just to not use it? And then if I'm thirsty, you tell me I can't have it when we can buy that back? You just want to keep it there for days and days, and I might be thirsty and I can't drink it? No, you playing yourself. I'm going to drink that, right? It's not right what I did. I'm explaining the mindset, right? I'm explaining the mindset, right? It's not right what I did. I recognize that that was not appropriate. But in the household that I grew up in, imagine if people don't have to eat and you got something to eat, and that caused plenty fights in my household. My aunts and uncles would tussle like giants around me. I would watch the blood flowing. It was violent. All right. Like if you put something in that fridge and you know everybody else hungry and you just styling on everybody with your food in the fridge just so everybody can know that your food in the fridge and you ain't eating that food, you just want to make everybody know you got that food in the fridge. It's gonna be some knuckles and elbows coming soon, cause now you just doing that to fuck with everybody else. You know we ain't got, and you just want to throw it in our face, and now you're gonna get beat
Okay.
up.
B1 Poppy said survival of the fittest mindset. That's exactly what that is.
So different, but they both stem from the same environment, right? A shortage, not having enough, that type of environment.
So, if money were a person, what would it say about your relationship? So, for me, if money was a person, it would probably say a work in progress for
Mm.
me. I'm not bad with money, but I do have a lot of trauma surrounding money. So, I am very good at saving. I'm very good at earning money. I'm very good at saving money. Those two things are not a problem for me. Um, but I remember as a kid, money was not in abundance.
Mm.
Things were not in abundance. So there was always a shortage of. So I always felt the need to, like Shane, hide my money because I didn't want, and like you doing, I didn't want people to take it from me because adults would borrow money and they wouldn't give it back, and then they will owe you so much money. Eventually they'll be like, okay, let's just start over. No, I don't want to start
Give me
over.
my money.
Run me my coins. I want all my coins plus interest. Like that was me. I used to add on interest. Like give me my
I
money.
ain't mad at you.
Like give me my money plus interest. But at the same time, I understood that, the adults that was borrowing the money didn't really have it like that. So, I try not to be an a-hole about it. But at the end of the day, it was disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
You worked hard for saving your money. You had plans on one day doing something with it, only for it to be snubbed out from under you. So I grew up not really wanting to share when I have money. And, to your point, I remember, Dwayne, you mentioned, like, you wouldn't pay money back to, like, your loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that was a problem for me. That's still a problem to me to this day. Like I have like a lot of trauma, around that. If you tell me you're gonna do something and you don't do it, now I don't trust you. So if you say, oh hey, can I borrow some money? I'm gonna give it back on the first, blah blah blah. And I get it, things happen, and you may have to delay those dates. But if you don't come back to that person and say, hey, I know I promised to give you this money back on the first, but something came up and I'm not able to do it. Is it okay if I give you some now and some in about a week or two or whatever? But just communication. If that communication is not there, I look at you as a liar and a thief, and now I don't trust you. So when we got married, I used to hide the monies that I made, that I saved. Like I would have hundreds of dollars saved, and I wouldn't tell him because I didn't want I didn't want him to take the money from me and not give it back, or just take the money in general. So that was always a fear for me because I knew I felt money wasn't in abundance. I didn't want an emergency to happen and then we were lacking. We didn't have. So I was always afraid of not having enough. Now I'm a little bit better with it, with money. If like I would give to charity and things like that, because even if in the moment I may not have, I would still give. If I, even just a little bit, a small fraction, I would still give because I understand the more you give, the more you receive.
Mm-hmm.
And the person that might be asking you in that moment might be in a position where they might need it way more than I need to hold on to it. So now that's kind of, my mindset. I'm not saying like I go around, like Mother Teresa giving to everybody now, but I am a little bit more open with giving to people who are in need, not as a borrow. I'm talking about to have. Like sometimes, you might see people with like GoFundMe's and things like that for different reasons. Um, somebody's store might have burnt down, and whatever the case might be. And I might say, hey, you know what? I got $20 in my account, but maybe I could afford to give them 5. Whereas before, I might be like, shoot, I only got 20. I don't know when the next 20 come in. I'm not giving them anything. Now I might say, hey, you know what? I can give them 5. Why? Because at least I have a roof over my head. They don't. Their house just burned down. So clearly they need my little $5 more than I need to keep it in my account. So little things like that, I'm able to adjust and do now that I wasn't able to do before. That's why I said if money was a person, it would say our relationship is a work in progress. Because I'm still kind of like working on releasing a lot of those traumas that I had as a kid that came with me as an adult. And now I try to teach our children, to have like that same mindset, not to worry about where the next dollar is coming from, because it's out there. And now there's so many, I think like B1 Poppy said, like, no, somebody earlier said something about hustling.
I think hustler's mindset.
No, it wasn't that. It was something else they were saying about being a
hustler
hustler.
mentality.
It's like, yeah, as long as there's breath in your body, you can always find a way to make money. So if you ain't got it today, you can go out and get it tomorrow. So that's just my mindset now. So now I'm not so much on this, like, I don't have like a hoarder's mindset. And like Diamond, I used to hoard stuff a lot. I still have clothes from when I was in high school, and I'm about to be 40, y'all.
I used to secretly throw them away when they got too bad, and she would get mad.
Because I'm just like, and even now as we're going through our house and we're throwing stuff out, I'm like, you know what? I don't need to hold on to this anymore.
Well, you know what?
It lived a good life.
That represents healing in you, you know what? That's the healing of the inner child. That's saying, I don't need to hold on to everything anymore.
Yeah.
Because there's more than enough.
It took me 40 years to start releasing stuff. Like now I'm able to be like, all right, I can let that go.
And for me, it's the opposite. I've learned to let stuff go because I know that there's more coming. So that's the difference in our extremes. Because now, guess what? I do something that I never thought I would have did. I let Chanel, for years, I've let Chanel control all my money. Like it comes in, here you go, babe. Why? Because logic tells me that if I hold on to it,
you ain't gonna have it.
I ain't gonna have it when I need it, right? So she does a better job at managing it, right? So now we tap into each other's strengths. Hey, babe, hold on to this money. Because I know when I need it down the road and I'm like, hey, babe, we got money. You're going to be like, here you go. And I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? So why, like just finding ways to work together because we are a couple. So, finding ways to just work together, complement our what you call it?
Strengths and weaknesses.
Our strengths and weaknesses, absolutely. Complement our strengths and weaknesses. We interested in hearing from y'all though, man. Listen, if I B1 Poppy, you're gonna have to get on live with us one day, man, because you guys show up and V Harris, all of you guys show up. Shout out to the family, the Wealthy Wednesday family. But we want to hear from y'all. We want to hear y'all input. It can't just be us, y'all. Are y'all experiencing things like this? Did you figure out some things about you and your relationship with money? Oh, I see you, Shane. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to say this is that, you started mentioning about, relinquishing your monies to Chanel and things like that. There isn't one single person that I would trust with my money right now. Not one single person that I would say, okay, here, you have control over all of my money and I trust that. And it's a work in progress and I know that. So therefore, when it's time for me to find partners, it's important that I find a partner that is decent with money, or at least willing to learn. Because if I don't have that person in my life, I would never relinquish that control when it comes to my money.
Yeah. And it causes you stress too. Because that is something that will keep you up at night. Because we're all getting older. We're not getting younger.
Yep.
So as we get older, we're gonna have to start depending on people more for certain things. And it may come a point in time where you may have to, not you, but us in general, we may have to depend on someone to have control over our finances.
Yep.
So yeah, if that's something that you don't have that person in place right now, that is a stressor in itself.
That's a whole different live right now. When you're dating, what are your steps to make sure that you and the person you're dating are financially compatible?
Oh, that is the number one on my list. Out of the top 5, that's the number one on the list. What's your relation like with your money? Because I need to know this. And if it doesn't align, I don't care how many other boxes they're checking. That is very important to me.
But that
You
makes sense because financial problems is the number one reason for divorce. It's not infidelity.
Absolutely.
It's financial issues that are irreconcilable. Like, people can forgive you cheating. It hurt. They can forgive that shit. They can't forgive if you got everybody out homeless in the middle of the winter because you fucked up the rent money. They're not gonna forgive that, most people,
you
right?
know what's crazy is that as an adult now, if we had the if we came into if you and I started dating as adults with those same money traumas that we had when we first met,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we would have stayed
No,
together. We wouldn't have gotten married. We wouldn't have stayed dating. Because as kids, you don't know any better. You're still trying to
right.
figure
You
those
you
things
don't
out.
even know about yourself yet.
But as an adult, coming in with that, like with the trauma that I had of wanting to hold on and you wanting to spend, that wouldn't work for me as an adult.
Well, that's why it's important that as adults, once you become an adult, when you were a child, you weren't responsible for the trauma because you weren't responsible for putting yourself in that environment. But as an adult, you are responsible for healing trauma that's now going to go out and affect other people. So as an adult, you are responsible for going to get your therapy. Believe me, I've been to so many therapy sessions I can't count, right? But therapy helps because what does it do? It gets you to see the parts of you that you can't see in the subconscious. That's where the trauma hides. The trauma, every time you get hurt or traumatized, whatever age you are, whatever understanding you are at that point in time, it freezes. It crystallizes it in that one spot. And that crystal speaks to you for the rest of your life in that mindset, right? And until you go back and unfreeze that crystal and thaw it out and look at it through your grown eyes so that now you can see better perspectives, better out you can see how things could have gone different and the role that you played in these things. Once you can see that, man, it changes everything for you, right? And you can heal and release that traumatized child that might have been 5, 10. You can release that person now. Once you release that person, now the whole you becomes visible now. Because remember, that was the invisible part of you. Once you release that trauma, the whole you becomes visible. And now you're seeing more success because the things you're thinking with your conscious mind, there's nothing impeding that you can't see. So you're going to be able to go from start to finish with very little bumps in the road or unexpected things pop up because you couldn't see that in your blind spot.
Two things. I know Diamond says she has to go
Okay.
around like 1 o'clock. So Diamond, if you have to run, thank you for joining us. Wealthy Wednesday.
Shout out Diamond D.
We'll see you next Wednesday, but we'll also chat offline. Second thing, B1 Poppy says, ain't none worse than a grown man or woman that's not working on themselves. And that is 100%
Fact.
facts. And another question I also wanted to ask was, as a kid, what did you notice about how the adults around you related to money? Now, I'm going to tell y'all a secret. Well, not even a secret. I'm going to share a secret
Put it
that
out there. Put it out there.
was taught to me. When Dwayne and I got married, I was 20. He was 22.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was packing up my little bedroom
Listen up, y'all.
so that I can move cross country. Because I was moved from New York
To
to Tennessee. And I was packing up my room so that we can drive down. And my grandmother, she was married for like 30-something years or whatever. I don't even know how long. She was married for a long time. She pulls me to the side. She says, listen,
It's grandma.
make sure you keep a little something, something for yourself. Anytime you get money. She's like, I'm not saying you don't have to share it with Dwayne, but make sure you have some money stashed on the side. You don't have to tell him everything that you're doing. She said, because sometimes these men, you just be doing too much, and you want to make sure that you got a little something for you. Hey,
Peace, Yarima.
yes.
I see you. The Unity Walk in the building.
So I was like, okay, I'm 20 years old. My grandmother's schooling me to some games. So I'm like, okay. So when we got married, every time I made, like I said, I was good with savings. So every time I made money, I had this little spot. I'm not going to tell y'all where the spot is.
They don't
just
need
in
to know.
case I still
They don't
use
need
that
to
spot.
know. They don't need to know.
But I had this spot that I would stash money in. And I remember, I had a lot of money stashed away. And then Dwayne would be like, oh, Like, let's say we had some type of situation and something happened, and oh my gosh, we don't have any money. What are we gonna do? And I'm all calm and cool. I'm like, don't worry about it. Go in my little stash. I pull it out, whip it out like bam. I whip it out like spades. Like bam, there it is. We good. And he's like, where you get this money from? And I'm like, oh, I just had a little something in the corner somewhere. And then I don't know how we ended up talking about one day, and he ended up finding out that yeah, I have all this abundance of money I'm sitting on, and he was just like, wait,
Record
what?
scratch. What?
And he was mad about that, and I'm like,
Holly.
why are you mad? Like, I'm not like I'm spending it on somebody else. Like, I'm spending it for us. This is like the secret stash. But his whole argument was, why are you keeping it from me? And I'm like, but my grandmother told me to do this, you know?
Listen up, ladies.
Like,
Listen
my
up.
grandmother told me to do this. And yeah, and it caused a lot of problems in our relationship. But the reason why I felt so comfortable hiding the money, and I'm going to tell y'all why, is because I was afraid of saying no. That's what it really boiled down to. Like, if he asked and I felt like it wasn't really warranted for us to spend the money, instead of me just saying no, like, no, I'm not going to give it to you, I felt, I cared about him. He came with little puppy dog eyes, and I didn't want to disappoint him.
Give me the money!
So I would give it. And what it boiled down to was that I was afraid to say no. What it really boiled down to.
And listen, man, I want y'all to hear what this is, man. Like, a lot of our bad behavior when it comes to money, we learned it from family. Her grandmother told her to hide that from her, right? Going into marriage, right? That was her. This was the married woman in Chanel's life giving Chanel wife
marital advice, yeah.
Right. Now, the reason why it affected me the way it affected me when I found out is because I don't think other people understand. A man's worth amongst men is his ability to provide and defend to provide for himself and defend that which he acquires, right? So, when a man shares his wealth with you, he is sharing the most valuable thing he has. For most men. Other than, the lineage, that's probably the most valuable thing. But outside of the lineage, and that's part of your wealth, right? But the money is probably the biggest thing. And I just, this live, I told you guys my relationship with money, right? Like, it was not the best coming up. So the fact that I was willing to be an open book, and I said, all right, that's my wife. So I'm not going to hide nothing. So, this is all of my money. This is all of my wealth. And then to find out a couple of years later that she didn't trust me the same way and she was stashing off her money, immediately I felt offended. Whoa. So I'm sitting here being real with you and you're not being real with me. So you can see how that can generate some trust issues. And we fought over that for some time. We argued over that for some time. That's why you got to qualify who you get your advice from, y'all. Qualify who you get your advice from.
He was my grandmama.
Exactly. And see, understand, a lot of your flaws also came from your family.
That's true.
So that same family that you inherited the flaw from is not going to criticize the flaw. Because they still have it. Right? So they're going to encourage you to stay the same. Which is a problem if you're trying to go into a union with somebody and this is trying to happen, but then there's a stick in the middle. Right? It'll never close up. And that's what was happening. And she's not the only one guilty of it. I was guilty of it too. Me and Chanel get in an argument, I go to my mama. Right? I go to my mama. Why? Because I'm mama's only child and mama spoiled me a little bit. Well, in the sense that she's always going to take my side. Right? She's always going to take my side. For the most part. She's always going to take my side. So I would go to mama and mama would be like, yeah, that's not right. I'm her child. Of course she's going to say that.
Yeah.
Right? I learned all my good and bad behaviors from mama. So she's going to agree with the things that I'm doing. Right? But when you get married, you got to close the door on bringing relatives into your family.
That's right.
Because see, what a lot of people don't realize is that when you get married, your family is no longer your family before you got married because now your wife is your family. Well, who's them other people that was your family? They now become your relatives. Them your relatives.
And distant relatives if they don't
Right?
act right.
And a lot of people don't agree with what I'm saying, but you got to understand there's a difference between relatives and family first. Right? So, and part of my growth was realizing that a lot of my traumas came from family, and they're not going to be able to see my growth or even agree when I make certain changes. Right? They're going to try to keep me as the old me that makes them comfortable. But if I'm growing past that, the new me is going to make them uncomfortable, and they're going to try to get me to stay the old me. They don't want the old me to die, because the old me allows them to stay the way they are without feeling uncomfortable. And at some point, I had to say, you know what? No, no, Ma, this is not what we're doing. Know this person. This is my wife. You will respect her. And it started with me, because guess what? If I wasn't running my business, they wouldn't have had the door would have never been open for them to say anything. So I had to learn. Stop doing that. Stop
And
opening the
same thing
door and
happened with me,
inviting
too.
outsiders.
Same thing happened with me. Remember, I used to run and tell my mother.
Yeah.
I'm my mother's youngest child. So
Yeah, the baby.
if I go to her, I'll be like, Mommy.
I'm automatically the bad guy.
And she's like, yeah. And it's so funny because over the weekend I was talking to her about that. And now I school my mother on
That's so
relationship advice, y'all. Ain't that wild?
And I do the same with
But
my
she
mama.
listens. And I'm like,
It's crazy.
because at this point, because Dwayne and I are coming up on our 20th wedding anniversary, the people in our lives are finally at a point where they're like, you know what? Maybe there is maybe they know
on
what
to
they're
something.
talking about a little bit. So, I'm talking to her and stuff, and she's actually being receptive to the things that I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I say to her, I was like, yeah, when I used to run and tell you things about my relationship, that was wrong. I shouldn't have did that. I said, you my mother, of course you're going to take my side. I said, and then, when we make up the next day, I love him, and you looking at him like,
Shade. My
Like-
mama same thing.
And
Looking at her
then
like,
she thought about it, and she's like, you know what, you're right. You're absolutely right. But, I didn't know any better. I was never married before. I got married at 20. And I didn't have a role model to teach me, my grandmother, but, she didn't prepare me on being a wife. So, yeah, a lot of the traumas that we have as adults, our parents never really sat us down and schooled us on what it is that we need to do in order to be functioning adults.
right.
They teach us the dysfunction by learned behavior.
Right.
We watch them and we see what they're doing, and then we think what they're doing is
We
right, so
copy
we
it.
do it too.
Right.
But no one really sits us down and say, hey, you know what, Shane, you know what, Dwayne, Chanel, Diamond, I know I do this way, but don't be like me.
Right.
Don't do it like this. My mother never even told me I should get married. Now that I'm thinking about it, that was never even a conversation that we had. I just looked at
But what's
that.
crazy that you
and I
always
said,
wanted to be married.
right, because I looked at what she had, and
Right.
I didn't want to be a single mother, because I'm like, yo, she out there struggling in
Say
these
it again,
streets.
say it again, say
I
what
don't
you
want
said.
that. I didn't want to be a single mother,
Oof.
because I saw my mother as one, and I was like, yeah, no. That's a no for me. That's a hell no for me. I don't want that. So I always knew that I wanted to get married and then have kids. But I didn't want to just get married. I always said this is what I wanted. I'm gonna tell you what I wanted. As a 15-year-old kid, I said, I want to marry someone that's going to love me unconditionally
Spoke a
and
spell.
respect me. That's what I wanted. That's
Spoke a
what
spell.
I wanted. Someone that's going to love me unconditionally and respect me. That's what I wanted in a husband. My idea of a husband wasn't somebody making 6 figures and what is it that you be asking for these days? I don't even know.
You spoke a powerful spell, Miss O.
And I ended up, and I swear, I was at 15. And a few months later, I promise you not, I met Dwayne. I won't even lie to y'all. I met Dwayne a few months later.
And the first thing I did was tell all my homies, y'all can't hang around when she's around. And they looked at me like I was crazy. What? You just met Shorty. Get on, bro. This ain't for us. Get on. This is me and her time. I'll holler at y'all. And everybody was looking at me crazy, but she came like a guardian angel, because had Chanel not showed up, them streets would have got me. Guaranteed. I know it within my heart. She was the guardian angel that when I was with her, the streets in my mind mentally had disappeared. She was like an antidote. I didn't even see it. It wasn't even there. And the minute she was gone, I was back in it again. So I was like, you know what? I like that feeling when I'm with her. I don't like the stuff I was doing on the streets. You know what I mean? So she was my breath of fresh air. But she spoke a spell. She said, I don't want to be nobody's baby mama. Me, I'm the oldest of nine. I'm the oldest of nine, bro. And I never lived in my father's house, and that always affected me. You know what I mean? Mentally, why not me? Children are gonna ask the question. And I remember growing up thinking, I understand my father had to deal with his challenges. I'm not holding it against him. No way. I'm just letting y'all know what the situation was. And I remember thinking to myself, I will not have children that do not live with me. They will live under my roof, and I will be a part of their life. And that was that was just something that I knew, like, and I had control over that. So I was able to tell Chanel the same thing. Listen, we gonna make a family, and I don't know if she believed me back then, but we was gonna have a lot of children.
You said five.
Five. And we did have five. Just
Yeah.
let y'all know, one did not make it, right? So we had five. So
Yeah.
powerful spells were spoken. You know what I mean? But relationship with money, y'all. Relationship with money. Look inside. Do some therapy. Therapy is not a bad word, and it don't necessarily got to be with a therapist in the sense that somebody that got a title in their name or whatever. It don't have to be that, y'all. Do you know that you can be therapy for yourself? Let me tell you how you be therapy for yourself. Now I'm gonna stop talking. Go buy you one of those black and white composition books, and every night before you go to sleep, I want you to journal. What are you gonna journal? You're gonna journal the things that you wanted to achieve that day. You're gonna journal what you actually achieved that day, and then you're gonna journal how you felt going through the process. That's it. That's the entire thing right there. That's the whole thing. That's it. I guarantee you, just by doing that, what you do in your journal is your subconscious comes out on the paper. Now your conscious can see it. That's the same as when the psychiatrist is listening to you or the psychologist is listening to you and they hear something that they know you didn't hear and they repeat it back to you so your conscious mind can hear it and grab it. Right? So now all you're doing is you're doing that in the book form. You're counseling yourself. You're becoming aware of what's going on inside of you. You get a better perception of who you are and where your flaws and your strengths are, and then you can adjust accordingly. But as why not? We do everything else together. We will go play basketball together. We go on a trip to some other country together. So why can't we do like 15 minutes of therapy, group therapy? Can we just be honest and open and let your guard down?
Yeah, I think we, as adults, we just need to start having more open conversations about our traumas, like our money traumas, so that we can find the tools that we need in order to overcome those money traumas. Because the reason why we're not where we want to be in life is not because your boss didn't give you that raise. It's not because of inflation. It's because of our mindset
Mm-hmm.
and how we view money, how we our relationship that we have with money. So really sit down and reflect on, and this is something that I still do. I still journal every night, and really sit down and reflect on your relationship with money and what your money would say about your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Like really ask yourself that question. Ask yourself this question: if money was a person, what would it say about our relationship? That's one.
Mm.
What are my earliest thoughts and feelings about money?
Mm.
What do I believe about money today?
Mm.
As a kid, what did I notice about how the adults around me related to money? Ask yourself those questions and really like sit with those answers and then start taking the necessary steps. Then once you do that, seek professional help with people that can help you guys in those areas. Shane is a tax person. Actually, she's
Mm-hmm.
more than just a tax person, but she's going to tell you in a minute what all she do.
Uh-huh.
But you guys need to tap into a tax professional. Why? Because the tax professional is does more than just file your taxes by April 15th. A tax person keeps you accountable for your spending habits. That tax person, and a lot of times the reason why we don't hire a tax person on going, to work with throughout the whole year is because we don't want nobody in our business. We want to keep doing those same unhealthy things that we're doing and keep enabling ourselves to be broke. That's
Mm-hmm.
really what it is. We want to enable ourselves to just keep spending money frivolously because we don't want a responsible person holding us accountable for our
Mm-hmm.
actions. And then when you guys are done with that person, you guys also need to speak. When you guys are ready, sit with Dwayne and myself, because now we are going as financial coaches. We are going to show you guys also how to grow your money, how to
Protect it
protect your
first.
money,
Yep.
and how to make sure you set it up so that it lives forever, pretty much.
So that your great great grandkids can have some.
We're going to teach you guys how to make sure your great great grandchildren know your name.
Or how to make sure that your great great grandchildren are born retired.
That too.
Hey, who's talking that? Right? So listen, we went past a little bit because the flow was good today. And hey, why not? Right? When you work for yourself, you can be flexible. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and pass the mic around. Diamond had to leave out. Diamond had to leave out, but if you want to get in contact with Diamond, um, Diamond D Cells, am I saying that right?
Yeah,
Or is it DD Cells?
Diamond DEE cells.
On all platforms.
Yes.
That's what. There you go. See, this is the power of the subconscious. He says it so much now; it's stuck in my head. All right. So if you want to get in contact with Diamond, that's all things real estate. And I'll pass the mic to Shane. And Shane, tell them how they can get in contact with you if they need what you do.
Oh, sorry. And Diamond, real estate is one of the keys to generational wealth. So make sure you guys tap into her.
Yes.
Go ahead, Shane. Uh
Uh-oh.
oh.
Shane might be eating foods.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Oh, shoot, I'm here talking and it's on mute still. Yeah, before I give my outro, I wanted to share something else before we end it, if that's fine. That's okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
So, as you guys were talking about relationship and when you got married and how it was, and I kind of recalled in a situation when I got married. I got married when I was 24, and I was fresh out the military. My husband at that time, he was still on active duty, and we got married. And I didn't know nothing about being married because, just as Chanel was mentioning, a lot of times our parents, people didn't really talk to us about marriage and how to be a wife or how to be a husband. So he didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. And so we got married, and we was living together, and I was in school at the time, so he was mainly in charge of most of the finances in terms of like paying the big bills, the rent and stuff like that, and I was just kind of help out with food and utilities, so to speak. So I was in nursing school, and when he would get angry with me, he would knew finances was important to me, so to hurt me, he would withhold it. So it came a point in time where he would eat at work, and then he stopped putting groceries in the house.
What?
So of course, if you're at work and you're eating, and I'm home, or I come home from school and there's no food there, what am I supposed to do?
Wow.
So I was always very resilient, and I'm going to make stuff happen whether I have it or not. That's what was instilled in me when I was a child. So I went on down the street to social services, and they was like, what's going on? I said, hey, I'm married. My husband gets upset. He doesn't want to give any food. I'm hungry. There's no food in the house. So they took me to the pantry, told me to pick out what I want, and I came home with 2 boxes of food. I put some in the fridge. I put it in the cupboards or what. There was food in the house. So he gets home now, and he's like, where all this food come from? I said, I went on down to social service, and I told him my husband wasn't feeding me, and they gave me food. He was like, you told them people I'm not feeding you?
That's right.
Yes, I did, because you're not. So he was embarrassed that I told other people what he wasn't doing, versus being embarrassed that he even decided to do that to me to begin with, to force me into that position.
Right.
So he never did it again because he realized, okay, if I do this, she's just going to find a way anyway. But realistically, that should have never happened at all.
Were you in the military? Was he?
No, I was out at that point. He was still in. I was out.
He could have. If they'd have found out he was doing that to you, they would have broke bread with you, and he would have gotten in trouble. The military would have took care of it.
Absolutely. But I wasn't thinking about that back then.
Okay.
I was just like, whatever. A lot of things, I didn't think about then.
Right.
It was later in years when I thought back, and I'm like, wow, that was a really messed up situation. So he never did that again, and that became my driving force more so.
Damn.
I'm not going to depend on no man. I'm going to make sure I always have my own. And that was like not the message he was trying to relay, but that's the message I got when he
Received.
did that situation. That I wasn't going to depend on another person. And that's what leads me to why I brought that up is when I was saying earlier, hey, I don't trust anybody with my finances because the one time I did,
Leverage, yeah.
they used it to put me back in lack versus in the abundance where I am now.
Right. And
So
that's
that
why
fear
it's
of going back is greater than where I am now. And it's sad to say, and it's a constant work that I would have to continue to do because not everybody is going to be him.
right.
Not
Right.
everybody that do something that I don't like me, they're trying to put me back in lack. So I have to literally disconnect that thought and say, well, no, not every situation will bring you there. But if you've been there before, lots of things makes it familiar and that trauma comes back up again.
Right.
You got to heal that child that endured that trauma so they can let
Absolutely.
go.
And be very
Absolutely.
mindful of who we pick as partners.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
So,
Yes.
So yeah, I just wanted to throw that, in
oof,
there before, I let my closing off thing because it really spoke to me when you guys were talking about,
Yeah.
relationships and money and things like that. Because many people are in a similar situation
Mhm.
like I'm in, and know that, having a conversation. Because had I known this, what I know now back then, I could have had a conversation with him and
Yeah.
tell him how that made me feel.
Yes.
right.
You know, I was talking to someone the other day, and the person was like, you know, when their significant other talks to them, it makes them feel like the person is chastising them, like if they're their father. So I said, well, did you talk to that person? Did you tell him how that made you feel? And she said no.
Mm,
I said, well, maybe you should, because people don't know what our triggers are until we tell them.
exactly.
And now once they're aware of it, now they can be mindful to not purposely trigger you in those areas, and they'll be just a little bit more considerate when having conversations with us. So to your point, yeah, if you were to have that conversation with him, let him know, hey, when you do this, this is how it makes me feel, versus you going up the street and going to the pantry, it just could have been a conversation that could have been like, oh, okay, now I see how my actions make you